We are seeing new dash cam video from the Florida Highway Patrol showing the arrest of professional wrestler Jeff Hardy in Volusia County.
Breaking news for you tonight. Jeff Hardy has been arrested.
Third time in 2 years.
Jeff Hardy of Cameron, North Carolina, has been charged with DUI in Volusia County.
Ever since 21, 22, we didn't even drink until I think I was 21 or 22. I never drank in high school. That was my invincible power. I thought, along with Matt too, we believed in, that was bad, for your body, for your faith, for your luck, for everything. Until we got on the road, and that's when we naturally just started kind of, experimenting, with things, and it just I got carried away with it.
Jeff Hardy competed for 9 years in the WWE, but the beginning of the 2000s wasn't kind to him. April 22, 2003 was the first time Hardy was released by WWE for his frequent drug abuse and refusal to enter rehab. It was also attributed.
Alright, so before this goes any further, I know it sounds like shit, the narration, alright? This was my first video. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, alright?
By deteriorating ring performance, as well as constant tardiness. Hardy downplayed these accusations in 2006 through an article in which he said, "I didn't need rehab when I was released by WWE. It wasn't just about demons or demonic metaphors related to drug abuse. I failed numerous drug tests because I didn't care. I didn't care to wrestle anymore. A sense of me believes it might have been my way out of wrestling."
Jeff was in total denial. Like a lot of substance abusers, he just didn't perceive that he had a big problem. It's nothing I can't handle. And so, when I remember sitting down and talking with him at a TV after the drug tests and so forth, and him appearing to be, affected, not in the right frame of mind, just on whatever pills he was taking. And I said, we only, we have this theory here, Jeff, that, we either solve problems or we eliminate them. And the way we're going to solve your problem, if you agree, is that we're going to send you to rehab and help you with why are you doing this? Why are you purposely valuing getting high over your career? You're not going to make any money getting high. You can make a lot of money as Jeff Hardy, the superstar. And he was getting a singles opportunity. It was coming up. He had great charisma, as we all know, phenomenal performer. But he said, "I'm not going to rehab." I said, "Is that your final answer? You want to think about this and get back to me later today?" So we got to decide today. "Nope, I'm not going. There's no sense waiting. I'm not going." All right, then I guess you're basically telling me you're done, because we can't continue this way. It's not an option. We just can't do it. So, he was wrecking Corvettes, and he was all these things. He was missing death multiple times. So I was really surprised at that decision. And when I told Vince, Vince couldn't, he was incredulous as well. "You mean he's going to walk away from what, we're going to push him. He's got a great opportunity." Yep. So apparently he'd rather get high as to come to work. And so luckily for everybody involved, for many, many obvious reasons, he's climbed that mountain, and he's looking down on a past drug and alcohol abuser. But man, he was primed. We talk about the reliability thing. There's no reason that Jeff Hardy would not have been a great WWE champion,
right?
Or any title. But he just wasn't reliable. And how do you put your championship on somebody that you don't have full confidence that they're going to be cool? They're going to be okay. Can they take the pressure of being the champion? Can they take the pressure of going on last night after night? Can they take the pressure of putting the company on their shoulders and marching forward? And at that time, that was not what everybody thought. They just didn't think Jeff was going to be able to hold up in that scenario. And part of that's just maturing and getting past it, man. Nobody was ever going to bail on him. And look, when we were ready, if he raised his hand and said, "I'm ready to go get help," we'd have brought him right back after successfully completing an alcohol program.
August of 2006 saw the return of Jeff Hardy to Monday Night Raw, where he took part in WWE's Talent Wellness Program The noteworthy thing about his return was that they would end up placing his addictions under a spotlight rather than sweep it under the rug. Unfortunately, it wouldn't take Jeff Hardy too long to violate their new wellness policy in 2007, after which he was suspended for 30 days. He would attempt to conceal the news on his website, thehardyshow.com, where he claimed he needed time to heal from a nasty fall that occurred on Raw the week earlier.
Alright, so I wasn't sure if this was actually true, but I just wanted to include it because it sounded pretty cool. It sounded pretty goofy.
Fans quickly believed this was the case, but many had a good idea that Hardy was lying. In 2008, Jeff Hardy's second wellness policy violation led to a 60-day suspension. He lost his Intercontinental title to Chris Jericho a week prior. This suspension only hurt him further because he was removed from the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 24. This week only got worse for Jeff, as news came out on March 15th of a fire destroying Jeff Hardy's home. The cause of the fire was labeled as undetermined by the Moore County Fire Department, and no foul play was suspected because Hardy told investigators that he did not have insurance on his home. According to his brother Matt Hardy, nobody was in the house when the fire broke out, except for Jeff Hardy's dog, Jack. A year later, Jeff Hardy ultimately decided to leave the company, as his contract expired in 2009. Coincidentally, this is after a loser leaves match against CM Punk, who was openly straight edge, and the feud heavily relied on Jeff's substance abuse issues. I just thought that was interesting to point out.
CM Punk, I think you're a nerd.
Later that year, on September 11th, Jeff Hardy's home in North Carolina would be raided, and he was arrested on several drug charges. Criminal cocaine possession, felony opium drug trafficking, 2 counts of felony possession with the intent to distribute a Schedule III controlled substance, keeping a home for drug use and distribution, and a misdemeanor possession of drug paraphernalia were among the accusations.
And I was taking pills heavy when I left here in 09, and it was kind of well hid, and then, 2-3 weeks later, after I left is when I got arrested for opioid, actually trafficking, because I was taking so many and I was ordering them illegally and got busted. And to this day, I mean, I'm kind of thankful that happened, because I think it could have very well saved my life, because I knew I was to the point where if I would take like 8 or 12 at one time, to the point of throwing up, and just because I couldn't get, my tolerance was so high. And I was like, what am I doing to myself? Oh my God. But I kept doing it until I got arrested, and I was scared as hell, and I still to this day, that felony haunts me, as far as international travel. It's extremely hard at times. And although I'm way better now, and luckily TNA hired me after that, and I was able to wrestle there for 7 years, and that helped me out big time, because that was an ongoing thing for about 2 years before I was convicted. And talk about just stress and just wow. So that made me stop, and I think if that hadn't made me stop, I might have been stopped in another. I might be with my mom.
The raid on his home showed multiple drugs stockpiled by Hardy. These included 262 Vicodin prescription pills, 180 Soma prescription pills, 555 millimeters of anabolic steroids, and that's pretty much it. On a $125,000 bond, he would eventually be released from jail. 2 years later, in 2011, Hardy would plead guilty to 2 counts of possession with the intent to distribute a controlled narcotic and 1 count of conspiracy to trade opium. In accordance with his plea agreement, all additional charges were withdrawn. Hardy faced a 10-day jail sentence, 30 months of probation, and a $100,000 fine. Hardy's 20 to 33-month jail sentence was deferred on the condition that he continued to attend an outpatient drug counseling program and follow its requirements throughout his probationary period. Prosecutors also requested a 30-day jail sentence for Hardy, but the judge reduced it to 10 days and ordered him to serve it at a period specified by his probation supervisor, which Hardy ended up serving from October 3rd to October 13th. Alright, now I'm going to talk about the incident that I'm sure every single wrestling fan watching this knows about, which I wasn't even going to cover because I feel like this has been talked about so much, but then again, if you're a casual who doesn't know about this, then it'd be wrong to not include it. During these times, plagued with legal difficulties, Hardy re-signed with TNA in 2010. During his second run with the company, the most prominent instance of Hardy's addictions affecting his wrestling career occurred on March 13th, 2011. Hardy appeared under the influence at TNA's Victory Road pay-per-view, lethargic and not himself, in a zombie-like state. According to reports, the main event was cut short Due to backstage concern over Jeff Hardy's well-being, it took Hardy over 40 seconds to come out after his entrance music started playing. When he emerged, he was clearly intoxicated, and on his way to the ring, the referee was forced to give the X sign. Eric Bischoff eventually entered the ring and told Sting to finish the match early, and Sting hit Hardy with a Scorpion Death Drop and forcefully pinned him to end the match in 88 seconds. It's also important to note that this match was the main event of the pay-per-view. Now, you have to give props to Eric Bischoff for being able to appear composed and essentially save the situation despite him coming out and saying that he was contemplating on whether he should just knock out Jeff Hardy right there in the ring.
I was adamant about not bringing Jeff back. It wasn't my call, and I'm not even sure if anybody asked me my opinion, but I expressed it anyway because I felt that strongly about it. But Dixie was determined, and not that she needed me to compromise because I wasn't in any position of authority, but just because we had a relationship. My advice to her was, if you're going to bring him back, you at least need to hold him accountable by making him apologize to every single guy on the roster. And that was my idea. Not because I wanted to hear it. I didn't give a fuck. Yeah. I was done with Jeff Hardy at the time. I wouldn't have given him the time of day at that point because I was so angry with him for being as unprofessional as he was. And I've screwed shit up. I've been unprofessional. I've made choices and decisions that I regret. We all have. But man, when you're the main event on a pay-per-view and you spend 5 or 6 hours in a fucking cubby hole somewhere behind a soundstage, getting as narked up as you possibly can, that's way too selfish. That's beyond bad judgment. And I was adamant, but so was Dixie. So Jeff did come in and he manned up, and my opinion of Jeff actually changed after that. But that day it was like, what the fuck? Why even spend 5 minutes bringing talent together in a room to listen to his bullshit? That's how I felt about it. I wouldn't have taken somebody away from bad catering to take 5 minutes out of their day to listen to Jeff Hardy apologize if it would have been my choice, but it wasn't.
Well, Jeff was in a bad way that day, and he was deteriorating as the hours went on, more and more as the day went on, and it got to a point where he was just not ready to wrestle. And but you know what? Since then he's turned around, and life is great, and I respect Jeff, and I love his work, and love Jeff, period. So I don't hold anything against him. I don't harbor anything against him, and I wish him all the best.
And I was like, oh my God, I have fucked my life up. I have ruined my life. And this was naturally before my daughters and all that. But then the more time went on and the court cases kept getting, delayed and pushed back, I was going, man, this might be all right. This might be all right, man. I just got to get shit together. And this was back when somas were still, they wasn't a controlled substance, so you could order them from a website. You could get them easy or whatever. And I was still taking the somas during all that time before the actual conviction. And man, that's when 2011 with Sting, I was taking the somas, and I went out there fucked up. Mm-hmm. And man, I couldn't even wrestle for the first time in my life. I went too far. I couldn't wrestle, and with my idol, basically, Sting, and he had to do the right thing and shut me down and pin me. But then watching that back was a...
You watched that back, huh?
Oh, yeah. I was terrified, but it was a huge epiphany.
You knew you had to...
I had to, man,
right?
Because I knew that shit would set me straight. And then actually going to meet with my lawyer, he basically said, hey, are you taking anything now? I said, no, I'm not taking anything now. He said, well, you can't take anything if you want a chance. You gotta finish this outpatient thing, 120 days. And it's gonna be great for you. And so I took that so serious. So yeah, that was my eye opener. I mean, for the rest of my life was that night with Sting. And man, I love him so much. He was so great after that, coming back and being in the best shape of my life in 2012, whenever that was, when I won the title again or whatever. But yeah, basically in a sick way, that was a huge kind of eye opener for me to see that. And to feel pitiful for myself, go out there and cut that promo when I came back saying I was pathetic, just being all down on myself, like a Kurt Cobain type of hate for yourself, you know. But then instead of taking the low road, which is like you ending your own life or being so, oh man, I can't believe I can't live anymore. I just said, I have a chance and I'm going to make the most of it. And that's what I did, man. And 2012 was one of my best years ever, just coming back from that damn tragedy of a story. And
All right, this is where I think it's good that Hardy's a fan favorite, because I feel like if any other wrestler entered a match under the influence like this, their career would have been just finished. But anyway, now because of the events that transpired at Victory Road, Hardy would immediately be suspended by TNA. Later on, in August of 2011, TNA forbid both Jeff and Matt Hardy from being a part of the company unless they went to rehab to counter their problems, which the two ultimately refused to do. And while Matt eventually found himself released, Jeff would make his return the following month in September, addressing the fans in a promo where he openly asked for forgiveness. In 2017, at WrestleMania 33, Jeff and Matt Hardy made their return to WWE. The following 2 years, however, were troubling for Jeff. In March of 2018, Hardy's 2016 Cadillac raced off the road, striking 105 feet of guardrail before spinning out and stopping in the center lane of Concord Parkway. With all of this happening in North Carolina, his car would be damaged to the tune of $8,000, and the guardrail had $5,000 worth of damage. Hardy ended up scoring a .25 blood alcohol content level on a breath test while in detention at the Cabarrus County Detention Center. His guilty plea led to a 120-day suspended sentence and a $300 fine, and the suspension of his driver's license.
so the drugs got me in 2009 with the opioid abuse. And then in 2018 is when I got my first and last DUI. So now I'm still going through that now. And it just, oh my gosh, I'm so ashamed, but I gotta, I can't beat myself up over it. And that's one thing I learned about in alcohol assessment with all the other people that is going through the same thing. I was very lucky. It could have been a lot worse. If I'd have hurt somebody else, I would have never forgave myself. But luckily it was just me. It was just my car. And now I'm doing what I have to do to make things right now. I lose my license for a year. And the alcohol assessment class was really good for me to experience. And I'm gonna finish community service after about 4 more deals. But even with community service, it's been real, it's dreadful. I have to take 8 hours out of a day at home to go knock this out because of the trouble I got in. But man, just being around these guys that do this every day, there's something very peaceful about it. Out here just changing trash cans and instead of just wrestling every night, it reminds me of what it's like to have a normal job, and to communicate with these guys. Because I'm on TV, they don't treat me any differently, and I'm doing all the work just as hard. But and basically to sum everything up as far as trouble, like in 2009 when I got arrested was huge. It was terrible. The felony, all that. But then for drugs to get me back then, and then 2018, alcohol to get me. So I've had both worlds now, and I think when I talked to Triple H after this all went down in March of this year, I was like, I'm really ready to take my career like super serious and more than ever, because I knew I was going to be on my own. I was going to be on SmackDown, I was going to be on Raw.
Right. So
and that's what I'm doing right now. And through all the trouble and mistakes, I learn every time, and I'm done with that. And I'll go on record by saying this now: I'm never getting arrested again.
In July of 2019, Jeff Hardy was arrested again after being found passed out on a public staircase at Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. Hardy would admit to the police that he had been drinking vodka before paying a $153 ticket for this offense. According to officials, he was released on the same day, with WWE's public statement reading, Jeff Hardy is responsible for his own personal actions. By October 3rd, 2019, Jeff Hardy would find himself arrested again, this time in Moore County, North Carolina, for a DWI, which ended up being his third arrest, all within 18 months. Hardy was said to be driving while impaired with a revoked license, and with a BAC level of .25, more than 3 times the legal limit, although he'd eventually be released later that night. Alright, so at first I didn't think it was fair to really include this in the video because he didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but I think it fits the theme of the video, so I'm going to talk about it. And also considering the circumstances of why he was released, it just felt like it was right to include it. During a house show in Edinburgh, Texas, Jeff Hardy, already fed up with his time in WWE, simply felt the desire to leave and decided to just walk through the crowd. Although Jeff claims he was not intentionally trying to get fired. Due to Hardy's reputation, The company were quick to assume the worst and try to get Jeff Hardy to go to rehab, which he refused, with a drug test eventually clearing his name, although by this point, the company had already decided to fire him. And now this brings us to June of 2022, where Jeff Hardy, now 44, was charged with driving on a suspended license and breaking a condition that required him to have a DUI interlock device in his vehicle. According to reports, Hardy's third drunk driving arrest in the last 10 years is a third-degree felony. Tony Khan, president and CEO of AEW, spoke out in response to the news. Khan tweeted, "We were able to resume contact with Jeff Hardy this afternoon. AEW does not condone Jeff's alleged behavior. We've clarified to Jeff that we'll assist him in getting treatment for his substance abuse issues, which he has indicated that he's open to receiving. In the interim, he is suspended without pay, and he can only return to AEW upon successfully completing treatment and maintaining his sobriety." As of this recording, Jeff Hardy has pled not guilty to the DUI and other charges.
Fuck you, dog. I hope you fucking get a disease or some shit and cancer takes over your body and you die.